Welcome to the Civic Pulse. Civic means society, and the Civic Pulse looks at what's going on between our families, our neighbors, and our government. I'm Dr. Dilara Saeed, and I'm honored to serve as the host of the Civic Pulse podcast. Every month, we connect with diverse influencers, changemakers, and leaders. These are conversations at the intersections across America. So let's go. Today, I'm joined at the Civic Pulse by Arlene Limas. Arlene is an Olympic gold medal champion in taekwondo. She's also the Chief Executive Officer of PAVE Prevention, Proactive Anti-Violence Education and Consulting. We'll talk a little bit about how this all comes together. We'll talk a little bit about her background, her identity, and what everything that she brings to this space of working with adults, children, and communities on anti-violence and prevention. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Dr. Dilara Saeed. I appreciate it. I'm really excited about being here.
Thank you. Well, I want to start a little bit with the Olympic gold medal. I'm sure everybody asks you about that because it's not only exciting and cool that you would bring that to the table, but it probably formed a lot of your young life.
Yeah, I mean, I really don't remember much life without martial arts. I am a lifelong martial artist. My dad has a combative, we'll say, background. He was a boxer, and he wanted myself and my brothers to be involved in something that would protect ourselves.
Mm.
And that took the form of martial arts. My older brothers, I'm the youngest by a lot, by several years. And so my older brothers got into it, and then they pulled me along almost as a mascot. I kind of was a mascot of the school initially. It was in the Austin community, and I was the only female and the only non-adult in the training. So I really did start kind of like this cute kid running around, jumping into classes. But then it was something I fell in love with, and I had, just a room full of support and teachers and trainers. And it was a really interesting dynamic as I look back on it as an adult. um,
Mhm.
it really was a room filled of people who may have found themselves, young men may have found themselves in gangs or that type of culture, and then law enforcement. So it was like police officers and gang participants in this martial arts class, training together, getting along together, respecting each other. And then there was me. And yeah, it really did, as you say, shaped my life. But martial arts has opened so many doors and led me to so many places in the world. Everything from all throughout the United States, all throughout internationally, to the highest place in amateur sport, which is the Olympic Games in 1988, where I won a
Yeah.
gold medal the first time my
Talk a little
sport.
bit about how that pathway
Yeah,
happened from
yeah. I
being a
mean,
cute kid in the taekwondo class to
yeah.
the
So
national and international spaces.
yeah, I mean, literally, I started in a form of martial arts called Shaolin Kung Fu first, which is a Chinese style. Then I transitioned to other martial arts. I'm a junkie in a sense for martial arts, so it doesn't matter the style, I'll study it. And then early on, the school that I started at in Austin, it closed. And so my dad just put mats for my brothers and I in the garage in Humboldt Park, and we would train in our garage. And that really, my formidable years of training was in my garage with my
Wow.
brothers. And then competing locally in Chicago first, then nationally, I became the #1 female fighter in the country in North America, and then transitioned to Olympic style fighting. And when I found out Taekwondo would be included in the Olympic Games in '88, it was, my goal at that point. It was the first time my sport was included in the Olympic Games because Korea was the host and it's their national sport. Uh, and so that's how the path there. But really, it was, competing at local tournaments, St. Viator's, at St. Andrews. These tournaments would be hosted at these gyms, at these schools, sometimes at Chicago State. There'd be
Mm.
tournaments down there. So yeah, I mean, it was a fun time to enjoy martial arts in the city of Chicago. And Chicago was actually a hub for martial arts development, athlete development.
Mhm.
They created a lot of fantastic martial artists have come out of Chicago.
Wow, that's amazing. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Uh, but it is certainly a large sport, very, very
Yeah.
popular. Not a
And and it's a sport that for the world, it is
Mhm.
easy to practice. And what I mean by that is we don't need $1 million swimming pools. We don't need $1 million of equipment. I mean, we have Olympians being formed on dirt parks in the Ivory Coast. I mean,
Yeah.
with a kicking paddle or something that they've made a target, and they're 8 years later, 10 years later, they're in the Olympic Games representing their country. It really is quite a special sport, in that way.
And I wanna talk then that transition, right, from
Mm,
sports to, a justice
mm,
warrior, different kind of
mm,
challenges and, sports that you're in today. And I actually wanna, do a juxtaposition between your story and someone who I've loved my whole life and admired, Muhammad Ali.
mm,
And if you and I don't know if someone's ever said that to you, but, like,
mm,
the start of Muhammad Ali in his boxing career was at a very early age. His bicycle was stolen, and he was brought into, "How do you defend yourself? How are you strong?" And he went into boxing. He went on to become, of course, the champ. Illinois, has the only Muhammad Ali Day in the nation.
mm,
January 17th is his birthday, and we commemorate it every year. The Muslim Civic Coalition was the organization that helped lead that, and it was passed by every legislator, right? It didn't matter whether you were Republican, Democrat, urban, rural, exurban, or in any space, you love the champ.
mm,
Um, and so when he was wrapping up his boxing career, or through his last years of his boxing career, he actually did so much work for justice,
mm,
was courageously just in so many ways. And he actually talked about, as his sports career ended, his real life calling began.
yeah.
And that's when I thought about you.
Mm.
You are now Chief Executive Officer of PAVE Prevention for Anti-Violence Education. And tell us a little bit about how that transition from being an Olympic champion to
Mm,
being an advocate for anti-violence happened.
mm.
And do you see the connection between you and Muhammad Ali?
Well, I mean, the fact that we're kind of spoken in the same breath is pretty amazing. I mean, everybody understands what an icon and what a leader and unselfish leader that Muhammad Ali was. And so I appreciate the connection. Not quite sure I'm worthy for it, but yeah, amazing that you would make that connection. Thank you. Um, as far as finding my role after my success as an athlete, I would say it may be even flipped. I may have found that role for justice at an even younger age because of my parents. They have just set such a wonderful example for me, and exposed me to so many opportunities to serve and to stand up for others, stand up for
Mm,
yourself. Um, and so some pivotal things in my life is, my mom empowering me that my voice mattered, my parents empowering me that my voice mattered. And it seems like a little thing, but at one time I was given a punishment at school. The entire class was given a punishment to write 500 times, "I will not talk or play during the fire drill," something like this, right? Uh, and I came home and I said, "Mom, I was not misbehaving. It was other people. It was not me. I don't feel it's right for me to write this punishment." And she said, "Okay, then you need to write why you shouldn't write the punishment." And of course, I ended up writing far more than if I would have just done the punishment. But it was an empowerment that I could stand up for myself and I could say something. And there were numerous things like this that my mom and dad supported me in doing, in kind of bucking the system in these small ways. In addition to that, my mom always led by example for me. So early on, even like fourth and fifth grade, I would be pulled out of school to be an extra body protesting in front of the mayor's office, or you know what I mean, because that, those things, those numbers count. Like, is it 10 people protesting, is it
Mhm.
100 people protesting? So I was exposed to that type of empowerment early on. And so when I moved into sport, especially high level sport like Olympic level sport, I started seeing some inappropriate power dynamics. I started seeing
Mm.
inappropriate behavior, harassment, the full spectrum of what that looks like. And we've all seen it play out on the press for us with our gymnasts, right? So that is happening.
Gymnasts,
Yes.
swimmers,
Ex-
bicyclists. Again,
yep.
you are so correct in making that
Yes.
connection between sports and um, violence.
Yeah. Yeah. And so for me, I've lived my whole entire life up until this point thinking that I could defend myself. I have the physical skills to defend myself, and the athletes around me should have those physical skills as well. But they still weren't being able to set a boundary. They weren't able to identify inappropriate coercion. They weren't able to use their voice. And so at that point, it really was an intersection for me around justice and how can I impart these skills, which have then shaped what PAVE does. That's the path, that where we're at with PAVE, because it was a very clear, very clear vision for me when I was asked to take the helm at PAVE. All the work that I have been doing to create a safe space for athletes in
Mm,
their workplace, it is the same thing that PAVE does now in the workplaces that we work with, is teaching people how to be empowered with a skill set that we call human safety skills. Being able to use your voice, setting a boundary, identifying certain behavior, situational awareness, being understanding when you're activated or your trauma has activated something that you're not even ready for it. You don't even realize that it's happening,
mm,
and recognizing that in other people. So it's that type of skill set along with physical skills. Those are always
mhm,
important. Um, but it's really these, what people would consider soft skills that we don't consider soft. They're very
mhm.
important.
So tell me a little bit about what that looks like in a workshop. So I attended one of your
Mm,
workshops with SIR, the Coalition for Immigrant and Refugee Rights, and I was so inspired
mm,
and so energized that I have now asked you to do a workshop with the Civic Young Fellows that we work with, about 40 of them, and I think that'll be amazing. You also work in libraries.
mm.
Most recently you've been doing a lot of work at libraries with these workshops. So tell us a little bit about what does it look like? What kind of training do you feel like people need to have today to be resilient and justice warriors and
Mm.
those who fight against and I use the word fight, but those who
Yeah.
work against violence, right?
Yeah. I mean, it is a fight. It is a
Mm,
fight, right? We are in a fight now. I would say the biggest aha that we find in our trainings for people is this acknowledgement of what's going on with me.
mm,
Where am I at? We use what we call a spectrum of awareness, and we use a very easy visual, which is a stoplight, a red, yellow, green, right? If I'm at green, then I'm in a good place. I can intervene. I can be a good upstander or bystander. I can help somebody. I can put myself out there. But if I'm at yellow or red because of whatever activation, and sometimes trauma activation comes out of the blue, we don't even know until we're already in it that something activated us. If we're in those other spots, yellow or red, we're not the person for the job. We're not the person to intervene. We have to find some places to regain our balance before we then step into situations again. And what I mean by being hit out of the blue with this trauma activation, at a young age, at 14 years old, my family, we lost our home to a fire. And it really hadn't come into my mind for a very, very, I mean, 20, 30, 40 years maybe. I hadn't even thought about it, you know? And the other, maybe a year ago, there were some smoke, some sirens. I started hearing things. That's, oh, that kind of looks like the same area of my mom's house. And like all these things just fell right back into place of making me feel all that pressure and, that angst. Out of the blue. It took me several weeks to regain my balance after that. And I would have never told, I would have said, there's nothing that would activate me like that. But it did. And we have these things. First of all, we've all experienced trauma, all of
Mhm.
us. And I think I would argue and challenge people that violence is impacting us and traumatizing us always and everywhere. Whether we're experiencing it firsthand, or our
Mhm.
community is experiencing it, or our loved ones are experiencing it, it's impacting us. Or I'm dealing with someone at work who has had violence, traumatic violent event with them. That's impacting me. It's impacting us all. So we have to acknowledge it, and move through the world accordingly.
Yeah. I really appreciate your saying and connecting it to all of us. And I want our listeners and our viewers to think about what you said. What part of your life was traumatic?
Mm,
What was a traumatic incident or a time? How does that form you? How does that impact how you then approach uh, both challenges and opportunities for change, right? I remember yeah, I've been uh, severely bullied as a kid,
mm,
and we live in Chicago, which we call one of the most diverse cities in the nation. We call it a city of neighborhoods, and really often that means segregated cities of neighborhoods and
yes.
pockets. And because you
Yeah.
also grew up here, we were the first non-white family to move into that area. It is now one of the most diverse neighborhoods in the city, which is hilarious. But we were the first non-white family to move into the area, and that was hard. That was hard for us because of what we were subjected to, but it was also hard for the families who just had a certain way of doing things and didn't know
Mm,
how to deal with us. So I see both. And so when people ask, like, how do you work across boundaries and races and faiths in what I hope is a very respectful way, I think back to the trauma of being bullied because I was non-white. But I think of and try to find a way to be compassionate about the bullies and how,
mm,
you know, they had to learn to accept me in the same way that I had to learn to become stronger.
yeah.
And it was through that exchange. And would another exchange that wasn't as violent have gotten me here? I don't know. I wish for a world like that,
Mm,
but I think we take opportunities and we try to learn from every experience. So, again, what you said about we have trauma. Um, how do we know if we have helped resolve that trauma and we're in a green light space to address something, and
yes.
how trauma still swirling in our head and we're not, because it's orange and red still in our heads and minds and hearts, and maybe we're not the best people, we step
Yeah.
away.
Yeah. And being able to have that type of sincerity and openness in the workplace is important, because we have to
Mhm.
rely on one another. Our teams have to work together in order to make the change that we want to have. So it's okay to go, you know, Delara, I'm really struggling today. I may need to, not be as public facing today. I've got you behind the scenes. I'll give you everything I got back there. But I'm on orange today. And then my
Mm,
teammate has to say, I got you,
mhm.
and those are the
That's
type of
allyship.
cultures.
That's
Yeah.
teammates. Yep.
Yeah.
That's
And
allyship and teammate.
that shared language is what we're building in libraries. So
Mhm.
libraries they are, the only way I can describe it is they're dealing on a daily basis of kind of death by 10,000 paper cuts.
Mm.
So yes, they have major events that come in there, like Proud Boys storming their locations, and they have all those things happening,
Yeah.
yes. But on a daily basis, they're dealing with the unhoused community. They're dealing with people that are coming in with severe mental crisis. They're dealing with the immigrant population coming in and looking for help. Um, they're dealing with people, senior citizens who are being dropped off and they're all day, sometimes with no food or no hydration. I mean, they're doing after school programs and before school. I mean, they are doing
Mhm.
so much. They are administering Narcan. They are I
Yeah.
mean, it is amazing the things that libraries are, how they're serving their community. But none of this is taught in information science school. None of this. Uh, and so it really is quite overwhelming. So we'll hear things. We have created a proprietary workplace assessment around aggression and toxic behavior in the workplace. And we'll hear from every library that we've worked with that they love what they're doing, they are not planning on leaving, they feel supported, all of these things. And then we have a couple questions in there that say, how many days in the last 30 have you felt mentally strong?
Mm.
And we'll get answers like 4 days out of the last 30.
Mm.
How many days in the last 30 have you felt physically strong? And we'll get like 7 or 8.
Mm.
Yeah. So giving them those skills to regain their balance and support each other, it's been very rewarding.
I really appreciate that again. Uh, people just want to be resilient, but resilience takes support,
Yeah. Yep.
right? Resilience takes support. The world expects so much of so many people these days, and I'm not sure that our individual workspaces, our family spaces give us the support to be high achieving, the support to be resilient.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree.
totally understand.
I agree. It's a again, it's been very rewarding work, but
Yeah.
it's I feel for them. I feel for
Mhm.
those organizations.
Mhm. So how do you build that? Like, I almost sometimes when I talk about the bullies of my childhood, I will have people say, don't make excuses for them. Like they were your
Mm,
bully. They hurt you. And I said, yeah, but you can have compassion because they were socialized to think a certain way, and you can try to help them through that, or you just stay away from them at that time, keep yourself safe, but you can grow up to make sure that doesn't happen in another generation. And I became a U.S. history and government teacher and taught
yep.
for 15 years, so maybe that was my way of trying to change the world, um, so that people weren't growing up socialized to hate. But look at it, look at the world today, Arlene. You are we talked earlier and you said Polish, American, Mexican, right? The diversity you bring in race, the diversity your family brings
Mm,
in, how we live, where we live, who we are, everything. Um, we seem to be going backwards, right? You're
yeah.
bringing this diversity and you're saying let's relish in it, let's support people in it, and yet the world doesn't seem to be saying those same things. How do we reconcile that right now, Arlene?
I mean, for me personally, it's conversations. It's having as many conversations with as many people as possible, um, trying to be as empathetic and as open as I can every day, offering people grace. I try to give the example of we have all driven when we've been really late to something incredibly important,
Hmm.
right? We've all had that at some point. And we have to acknowledge that we have been pretty obnoxious on that roadway, right? We
Let's
have.
say
We've
that
cut,
again. We
right?
have been driven when we have been late to something really important.
Right.
And I hear you. I think of that when George Floyd was happening and
Mm,
how passionate we all became to change things because it had been going on for too long, that police had
Mm,
authority, and some used it in a way to hurt the people they were supposed to protect. I think of that during right now in the genocide that we're seeing across the world, and the challenges we're
mm,
seeing across the world, where we see so much passion to change things because we've haven't been doing anything for
yeah.
decades. And so over and over again, when we see domestic violence in cases where we're, you know, it has to shift because it's been going on for a
Mm.
lifetime for this young woman or this young man. Huh, powerful. We are driven because sometimes we're late to a very important
Yeah, I
situation.
mean, and sometimes we do it the right way. We take our time, we're safe, and sometimes we don't on a road, right? So we have to be at least acknowledge when that someone is unsafe with us, what space they're in. Because we've been
Mhm.
in that space where we haven't kept everybody safe. We've turned, we've crossed over lanes, we didn't use our blinker. So just being mindful that someone may be in that spot, even though you're not there, you're just driving, having a great drive, but someone seems to be reckless. We don't know why. We don't know what hurry they're in. We don't know what's pending for them, right? So it's this acknowledgement that, we at least initially, I'm not saying we let everybody continue with grace and excuses and grace and pass. No, but initially, if we can extend that grace and have a conversation on, hey, did you mean it to land like that? Did you
Yeah.
intend it to be like that? Because that's how it's landing on me. Now, if it happens again, maybe I'm going to address it a different way. But
Mm,
that's one way that I try to move through the world. But also, you know, I've always been driven in times of crisis to come back to the things that are most important to me. And that's that immediate circle of the people that I love and the people that I can influence. And so when things felt, you know, crazy like they have been feeling, right? Coming out of
mm,
COVID, coming into everything that's happening around the world, wars all over, it really, if you stay out here, if you stay out in the big picture, it's overwhelming. It's overwhelming. So you have to start with, okay, today, how can I make these three people's lives better or contribute to
mm,
these three lives? And then tomorrow I might have the energy to do six people's lives better. And then, okay, let me see, I can venture out to my block now and let me see if I can participate in this. So it really is, incremental steps of good in a sense, like this little hub first, then this little hub, then this, and then now guess what? We're out here with 40, 50 people breaking boards and feeling empowered and feeling like, man, I'm recharged because of this.
yeah.
That's how we got to roll. We can't get bogged down.
Appreciate it. Um, you have shared with us what we need to do, every day, and how we can have an outlook that is both physically healthy and
Mm.
emotionally healthy. And you are uh, an athlete and
Mm.
a justice warrior. How can we support your work? How can we support the work of PAVE across this nation?
I think, again, we're here to help. We're here to impart skills, programming, support, consultation to create safer communities, safer workspaces. Now, that's kind of our foot in the door. But really, we want each individual in whatever organization we're working with to have this skill
Mhm.
set. Yes, if it creates a wonderful, productive corporation, hip hip, we're happy for our clients. But it really is
Yeah.
about empowering that individual so that they use the skill set at work, yes, but they're going to use it on the bus. They're going to use it on the
Mhm.
train stop. They're going to use it at home if it's a domestic violence situation, or interpersonal violence event. So we know our goal is the individual. And if we can just continue to take that to as many people as possible, we're happy and fulfilled and rewarded. So if anyone out there is looking for this type of training for their workplace, yeah, we'd love to hear from
Or
you.
their, or their mosque or their
Yes.
church or synagogue or temple. I think that's an important space for us to learn this, or their
Mm,
schools, or
yeah.
their libraries. What's the website?
We're at PAVE Prevention, PAVE prevention.com. You can check us out there.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Arlene Limas, for joining us. I am looking forward to breaking boards, breaking barriers, right? And
Yes.
building bridges with
Yeah.
you.
Thank you
I
so
hope we can
much.
together.
Thank you. Hmm.
Thank you. I want to thank our producers, Usama Razi and Subhan Ashrafi. And I want to thank the Civic Pulse team. And we love working and learning from people like Arlene Limas and the PAVE Prevention team. Look for another great episode next month.